A pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to Facecam Specials Insurgence, the Enlightening venture. And here we go, number 40 in the series. But right now, it's about time that I basically go in for yet another title out there that I pretty much have yet to show off anyways. So here we go. Fun Labs presents Stranded Deep. And let me tell you, this is yet another one of those late ports to the PS4, because this one came out last year in 2020 and was basically an original 2015 release. So then again, it took only 5 years for this to come out. I guess it's not too surprising, because after all, Planet Coaster did take a similar amount of time to make it to the PS4, just before people would eventually start turning their heads to the PS5 once that came out into the market. Man, I mean, there's really not much of a reason for me to even go ahead with more of these PS4 games, but I cannot even afford a PS5 console, so I guess I'm just stuck with all this. So anyways, Stranded Deep. And in case you haven't already noticed, well, Star Medicine Man is no longer Star Medicine Man. Star Medicine Man, 2007 to 2021. And that's simply because, well, guess what? This was a shared account, and, well, I really gotta say, if you remember Luke Nowak, my younger sibling, then well, yes. This guy already got another PS4, so no longer do we have to share the same account on the same console. We now have our own independent accounts going on. And so, guess what? I took over the Star Medicine Man account, and now it's being owned under KaijuForceNeo. So yeah, that's right. It's officially labeled KaijuForceNeo. After all of these years, it's now official. KaijuForceNeo is now officially on the PlayStation Network. So, if you think that's exciting, what kind of events are basically going to be taking place from this point on? So, well, I really gotta say though, when it comes to Stranded Deep itself, there really is kind of a lot to point out here. Like, from the fact that this sort of is almost like an imitation of Ark Survival Evolved, or basically, well, some games like that. I really gotta say though, when it comes to something like this, I'm not necessarily going all in with high expectations, hoping that maybe we will finally get something out there that just might actually be decent. For a 2020 title, I don't really know what to say about this one in particular, because Fun Labs is certainly not like Studio Wildcard or any of the other developers responsible for Ark Survival Evolved. And there were a lot of them. If you've seen my top 20 best PS4 games I've ever played video, which I already have on the channel in case you want to check that out, that's basically what happens. I go into as much detail as I possibly can, as a lot of time I've taken up, just to talk about why Ark is the greatest PS4 game of all time, and probably the best that I've ever had in my entire life. And this is most likely not a so far kind of case. This might as well just be the permanent side of the whole thing. And that's only because of the fact that it is just the greatest thing I might have ever possibly had when it comes to gaming. And yet, I'm going to establish this one last time, in case you have not already known. I do not, and don't necessarily wish to, revisit this title. I've already got way too much in terms of that game. So, but I will say though, that this right here, Stranded Deep, something that took a little while longer to come out, and yet it appears way more cheaper, the way I see it. I mean, graphically, it's decent, at least by PS4 standards, maybe for an early release title out there, not something from 2020. I mean, something from 2020, like The Last of Us Part 2, or perhaps Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, or maybe, well, various other titles out there. A lot of those are certainly way better looking than this. But then again, this was made under a pretty low budget, and was certainly made quite a long time ago. It was originally ported onto various other platforms, so being that this is a game that's now 6 years old, not just 5. When this was ported to the PS4 at the time, it was 5, but now it's about 6, because it's 2021 now. The transition from an actually decent year to the worst year we've ever had. But I'm not really going to let that, take over what I'm seeing right now, because looking at something like this, I honestly feel like that this is kind of an imitation to what Ark serves, except this one's a whole different sort of story. Instead of, well, a ginormous batch of legends, and a somewhat unparalleled sort of time period that seems to take place, instead you have yourself the modern era, the present time. A time where there existed things out there like watches and airplanes and life rafts and paddles. Pretty much technology that we typically use today. It basically just begins with you sitting on a plane and it crashes into a spot in the world known as the Pacifica. And this in particular forces you to basically take on whatever kind of survival skills you have to adapt from at any cost. And so I could say that the concept here going, well, simple really, based on the concept, something that's actually very realistic. The idea of becoming a castaway is not necessarily seen until it's pretty much too late. This in particular, though, I feel like it does set a pretty decent example. A very realistic point of view in terms of how it seems to, well, put things together here and there. Once again, though, if you basically are looking at the Facecam footage right now, then, well, it's basically right here in case you want to look at it. It's as simple as HDR, 4K Ultra, possibly 1440p quality video that you're seeing right now. I can't really see if this is like the best sort of graphical capability that this thing's probably going to exude right now, but again, this is a very complex piece of equipment that I have. A smaller package as opposed to my previous camera, but with a lot of punch, I will tell you that. Tons of punch to go with. So, in the end, I feel like I totally have my money's worth right there in the bag. And with that in mind, I feel like I'm more than just satisfied with something like this. So, but then again, when I'm basically taking a look at something like this, Stranded Deep, I'm not necessarily sure how this is going to basically be better than most other games that I'm potentially going to be playing throughout the rest of the year, so to speak. I will actually be, hopefully, attempting to revisit some titles out there that I have already played throughout the past year or so. And I feel like that next month, throughout most of August 2021, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'll be revisiting titles out there like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, Kingdom Hearts 3, and maybe a few others here and there. I guess we'll see what happens down the line. And I guess it'll also be important for us to know that, well, of course I got tons of other content out there to show off, including, well, ones I've already mentioned many times over, like films I should have talked about years ago, I Found It First. And let's not also forget that along with this, I also have myself a second season of Megapix Weekly already taking place. A bit ahead of the originally scheduled time that I was hoping to start this, but then again, considering the kind of problems that I'm having with my computer and my space and all that good stuff, again, the hard drive problems that I've been enduring throughout the past month or so are still kind of ongoing. The transferring process that I'm going to be having with terabytes of data and all that is certainly going to be ongoing, but you know what? I guess that'll be it for right now.